we've done a lot of career coaching in our firm, and that's really how we started about 10 years ago when we started working with MBA schools and MBA alumni. And I would say, this is the universal career truth, whether it's global or not, that you're going to find the most career success and satisfaction in following what you really are interested in, something that you would fight to do. And I think the greatest challenge for MBAs from a good school who are smart, who are graduating in a good market, is people are going to persuade you to do something you're not really in love with. And it's very appealing to go along. And it's really leveraging what you were talking about. And it's a really hard, it's such a simple thing to say, well, do what you love or follow your bliss, all those things. And it can be a very hard thing to know what that is. Part of the next, when you're graduating out of a business school, part of the next number of years are about experimentation. And through that process, figuring out what you really love. But that's where I see people go wrong. That I'm supposed to do this, or everybody thinks this is a really great idea. When you're 45 and you're still not doing that, you're probably not very happy, and you're probably not going to be very successful. You're going to cap, and it's a much harder time to make a change. And I see it a lot. So I think there's the skills of openness and creativity and smarts, and I think you have lots of those. It's listening to what do you really love and what you're really interested in that I think is a hard thing to do at this point. It's a hard thing to do, period, and it's a hard thing to do at this point.
For those of you who have entrepreneurship as, on your wish list, as a dream or as a passion or something you want to explore, if it's, somewhere at the back of your mind that, should I be working for a company or doing something of my own, I would give it a real, hard thought while you're at school and try to act upon it sooner rather than later.
Most companies and organizations, including small companies and startups and nonprofits and so on, when they hire MBAs, think about it as hiring a commodity. They're going to recruit 5 MBAs this year, or 50 MBAs, or 1 MBA this year, and they have an MBA track job, or they have an MBA program that you go into. And that's unfortunately the reality. And it's unfortunate because you're all special, right? Like, your mom and dad love this little thing about you, and your boyfriend or girlfriend or dog loves this other thing, and you're this unique, wonderful individual, and you poured your heart into this essay that got you into this school. And, I remember when I was in consulting, my first engagement, I was talking to my manager and asking, what does it take to be successful, at this consulting firm? And he said, well, you know what, you're an associate. So for your first 2 years, you guys are all the same. And I want you need to be like arrows in a quiver, where I've got a problem I need solved, I need to be able to pull out the arrow, put it in my bow, and it's got to hit the target. And it was really depressing, but it was also very honest, right? MBAs are generally great. They're smart people, they're motivated, they do good work. Number one, recognize that the stuff that makes you special and different may not be valued in your first job out of an MBA program. So deal with it. Think about what the first job is going to be. It might be a means to an end, and the thing that gives you particular capacity or capability or your gift might be not valued until you're 5 or 10 years into your career. So nurture it, hold on to it. But for the first job, do whatever they need you to do and be really, really good at that one thing. And don't worry too much that that special thing isn't the most valuable. Second thing is, figure out what you can be good at that is different from other people around you. So, for example, I would recommend all of you take a lot of statistics classes and operations management classes, because few of you are going to go into operations management and few of you are going to go into statistics. So the fields you go into are going to be ones where there are a few people like you who have studied operations and statistics, right? And everyone talks about big data and analytics and behavioral economics, and people don't have these skill sets in these fields. So if you go into marketing, it's still really primitive. If you go into finance, they actually don't have a lot of insight in finance that comes from other fields. A good friend of mine did his undergraduate thesis on applying chaos theory to financial markets. in the early 90s, right? And 20 years later, it turns out that was the problem. They were using bad distributions and models, right? So figure out something, and I'd recommend stats and operations, and then that's going to be useful broadly, and work in a different field where people don't have that skill set, because it's incredibly useful. And if nothing else, just fall back on like statistical process control and operations management, and whatever you're tasked with, you'll be able to make work better, and you'll look like a hero. The last thing I'd say is develop a range of leadership styles. People at SOM in particular are really nice people, right? And I was going to tell you to be like meaner and more aggressive and more self-promoting, but don't do that. Don't be mean jerks, but consciously develop several different leadership and management styles and deliberately and consciously deploy those as needed. Because if you're at SOM, the odds are your default style is probably going to be one that is not going to be the dominant one from a strategic perspective in terms of advancing your career in most companies. But it will be one that 10 years into your career is incredibly valuable.
For those of you that are first years or dual degrees like me who had 2 shots at internships, embrace your internships, and if possible, try and make one of them just an epic fail. I mean, just suck it. Just be horrible. Just ask yourself, why did they ever hire me, and will SOM take me back? Because I had that my second summer at Monitor Company. And it was one of those things that I tucked my tail between my legs, and I went back to school, and I completely rebuilt my golf swing, I guess is the horrible analogy. I mean, I had a complete different approach to my third year than I had the first 2, and I got way more out of my classes, and I paid a lot more attention. But looking back now at this career, what happens when I'm having an epic fail is I recognize the symptoms and I correct very quickly. And it's only because I actually put myself in a situation that I had no business being in that I can do that. And as a result, I've been able to kind of keep things within the guardrails. And I have some friends who had their epic fail, but in the middle of their career. And that's tough. That's tough to recover from.